you do get media and you're dealing with print and digital journalists, it's a tough interview to do because essentially it's one-on-one. Unlike radio and TV where you say the words yourself and they're broadcast as they were, if you're doing it with a print and digital journalist, essentially they're taking your words away from you and going back to the office or going back to wherever they're writing the story and then thinking about it again and then putting your words in there, which may not accurately reflect what you've said because you're not there actually saying them anymore. They've just written them down by hand. So you've got to be very cautious of that. That's why it's vitally important that you never bring two topics into the one answer. Never. Under no circumstances. You'll just start confusing journalists. And as we've already heard, journalists are typically inexperienced these days. So they don't know the situation as good as you. So it may sound good to bring more than one topic into the conversation, but in the one answer, absolutely not, because you'll confuse them and that will lead to you not being accurately reflected. So the best way to avoid those sorts of things and also to not be reflected inaccurately is to record the interview you're doing with them. Chances are they'll have their iPhone on the table recording it. You need to do it as well. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you. They obviously want an interview with you, so they're not going to object to you then recording it just for your own benefit, and that goes some way as towards solving the problem of you being misrepresented. Also, when I was working as a journalist and people would say to me after I'd interviewed them, send me a copy of that, that was just a little trigger in the back, excuse me, in the back of my mind that I had to be accurate in my reporting of them because they're expecting to see it. It's not a safeguard, it's not going to solve the issue for you, but it was just a little trigger, it's just a nice little game to play. Television comes down to one thing, it's footage. It's not the quotes that they want from you, it's not. Your news service runs stories on average about 45 seconds. Set your clock to it because every 5 seconds that footage will change to something new. So it is all about the footage, not the words that you want to use. They will literally take any sort of quote you give them as long as they have good footage to back it up. And you play a role in that because one of the best ways to get yourself media is to do the job for the journalists because they're time poor, they're under pressure and there's not many of them anyway. So if you can give them basically a complete story, they will take it. And it happened to me on several occasions as a media advisor. You'd write a media release, you'd put in broadcast-worthy photos or videos. I'd wake up the next morning and I'd see it in the newspaper. And the only difference to the story was my name had been removed and theirs had been put down there. But for people like you, that's exactly what you want because that's 100% of your words in there and it can't be misinterpreted. It's a good thing. So when doing these television interviews, you need to know where you're going to stand. It's not a good idea to stand under a tree full of birds because we know what happens there. A journalist will never tell you if it's problematic because the story can become bigger than Ben-Hur and not about you at all because it comes back to the gotcha moment. And we'll leave on this note because I think it's a very good one. This highlights perfectly the quintessential gotcha moment and I can't think of a better example than this. So that is the former Prime Minister of the country, opposition leader at the time, doing a street walk through a shopping centre and his media team decided to walk him and the journalist the wrong way around. And that is the result. So that went absolutely crazy on social media, obviously. So we now, when he lost the Prime Ministership, it was wheeled out again. We saw him constantly. He's the reject Prime Minister of the country. If you type Tony Abbott into a Google search, that's what on the first page that comes up. So that's the type of thing that if you put yourself in the wrong environment, you're in big trouble because I challenge anyone to tell me, and I'm a media and political hack, and I cannot tell you the policy that he was there to announce or the announcement that he was there to give, but I can tell you about the story, and the story is he is the reject. So there it is. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Aside from Channel 9, he's also the go-to person when Neil Mitchell is sick or unwell or just wants the lazy day off. Tony will fill in doing the morning show, and I believe he'll be doing that next Monday and Tuesday.